I just need to get this out of my system as it literally just happened. So I female work 2 jobs and I'm currently in a temporary accommodation which unfortunately is notorious for housing drug dealers and ex-convicts. There are endless parties and it wasn't unusual to hear loud banging and people out of their minds screaming at each other. I keep myself to myself, but it still has become part of my everyday life. The police are here every other day. I returned home from my first job as normal today and then headed back out to my second one. As I walked out of my flat building both times to go to work, I noticed police cars and ambulances parked outside. Again, not an unusual sight, but it was the second time as I was leaving that an officer stopped me to ask if I heard anything the night before, and I said yes. There was some music blaring for a while, and then came the banging and shouting all around 1:30 a.m. I told him it sounded nothing out of the ordinary, and he let me go. As I arrived at work, my colleagues were all gossiping as usual. I wasn't really acknowledging any of it. Not until just the 2 of us were assigned the job, my colleague explained to me that the guy below me battered his ex to death in a heated, drug-fueled rage, and that was likely what I was hearing last night, as apparently the ambulance was called half an hour later from when I heard all the noise. I am now in bed and there's still police hanging around his flat, but it's so hard to sleep knowing that somebody lost their life below me and that I was awake listening to it the whole time. It's surreal and I felt sick since I found out. I don't know how to process it. Yes, she was constantly going back to her abusive ex and strung out on hard drugs, but nobody deserves something like that happening to them. This tale is 15 years in the making. I work with disabled and vulnerable adults. One time I was grabbing a drink with a friend Joe and he asked if I could work for his girlfriend Jane. Jane and I got on like a house on fire. She had some physical disabilities but also some mental health issues, leading to her being prescribed a raft of antipsychotics. Joe was particularly on top of Jane's meds as he was training to be a mental health nurse. He had me filling in sheets as if I were working in a psych ward at their house rather than a private residence. Usually, I simply make sure the people I work with take their meds. Sometimes, if they're controlled drugs, I might need to fill in a tick box, but he had full-on sheets that I was expected to fill in as a nurse would. Over time, I realized how controlling Joe was and how much he used Jane's mental health against her. Gradually, I realized that if he attended doctor's appointments with her, she would get an increase in meds. If I attended with her, this didn't happen. Joe was getting me stressed out with how useless I was, not putting items back into the cupboards perfectly, or making spelling mistakes, and missing punctuation on the over-the-top med sheets. I didn't notice how quite off balance he was keeping me, but I was very stressed out. So stressed out, I had several episodes of insomnia. One of these episodes, the doctor concluded, led to me hallucinating twice while awake. The doctor gave me sleeping pills and the hallucinations didn't come back. When I saw Joe hit Jane for the first time, I did have the wherewithal to call social services, but Jane claimed it didn't happen. Joe said I'd misunderstood what was going on and that I didn't have any right to interfere in their relationship. The first time Jane left, he claimed I'd had undue influence over her and left me checking words I said in case I was somehow influencing her as a vulnerable person. When Joe pinned me to a wall by my throat because I tried to prevent him from hitting her, I knew that I needed to leave, so I mentally gave Jane until January to leave him, and then I would stop working there. I registered a complaint with Joe's nursing course about his treatment of the vulnerable. She left him before that Christmas. By June, without him influencing her doctors, she had been taken off all the psych meds and hadn't had an episode since she left. Almost as if her stressor wasn't present, her physical disabilities improved significantly as well in the years since she left. That's because of the lack of unnecessary psych meds. I haven't worked for Jane in years as she moved away to marry a lovely bloke. I do work for a young adult who is apprenticing in a workplace, and for his first 6 months, he has me in the breakout area identifying anything a disability charity can provide for his access needs. His colleagues chat away to me on their breaks, including one who is very proud of his daughter, a nurse. The daughter has a colleague who at first used to provide fun tales of a dumbass who came to work hungover naturally. Then the colleague turned up to work on a ward, while drunk or high. Then the colleague boasted about keeping an ex-girlfriend's interfering friend quiet by feeding her the girlfriend's drugs so she didn't call social services on him. The daughter has made a complaint. Then I got to see a photo of this colleague, and of course it was Joe, and I'm stuck here thinking about those times I hallucinated due to insomnia. Or did he put something in my tea? Hi, 28 female here. So this happened a week ago, but it still makes me kind of eek when I think about it. Okay, so last Friday after I knocked off of work, I went home and my brother, also 28, who I live with, texted me and asked if I wanted to meet with him and some friends at one of the nearby bars. I got there and went over to the bar to get a drink. My brother came and basically just pointed out to me where the table they were sitting at was. It was busy and there were only 2 bartenders working, so it was taking a minute. Sitting next to me at the bar was a dude. He was probably in his early to mid 30s. He was fairly clean cut, average height, average body type. Not attractive to me, but also not unattractive, just not my type. He initiated some small talk with me, which was fine, but things moved pretty fast. And when it started moving that fast, it got inappropriate. So he told me right off the bat, "You look like a vodka and tonic type girl." I told him no, that I was ordering a Jack and Coke. He rolled his eyes in an overly sarcastic kind of way and smiled, almost like he was trying to be intentionally charming, which wasn't working. He asked for my name, which my brother had previously called out, so lying seemed pointless. He introduced himself. For the sake of this story, I'll call him Jack. Jack made a few comments, mostly about how he thought I was pretty, and asked what I did for a living. Told him I'm a nurse. He said it was sexy, which to me was a little over the line for someone to just blurt out. I was finally able to order my drink, but I still had to wait. Jack told me that my boyfriend looked too ugly to be with me and suggested that I needed to be with a real man. He was referring to my twin brother. I told him that was very inappropriate and rude to say, but he just chuckled. Then he started showing me his tattoos. I'm completely ignoring him as of now. He lifts up my sleeves to see if I have any, and I pulled my arm away. He then, and I swear I can't make this up, pulls the back of my shirt and looks down and says, "You sure you don't have any?" I slapped his hand away and moved over to the table that my brother and friends were at. As I'm leaving, he asks, "Have you ever been with a woman? Like, is this dude drunk or stupid or horny or what?" When I got to the table, I told my best friend, who I date on and off on occasion, who told my brother also. Both of them went over to confront the guy. Aside from my brother shoving him to get him out of the bar stool, nothing extremely physical happened, but the two did chase him out of the bar. To my surprise, the owner of the bar actually kicked my brother and his friend out for that. That's when the two of them started pitching a fit. We eventually all left and just all went to our apartment. The manager texted my brother the next day and told him that their ban was lifted because the owner didn't know what happened. One of the bartenders also came forward and said that the guy had asked to lick her breasts earlier that evening. I don't know why he wasn't kicked out for that alone. Anyways, I like to have a fun time as much as the next girl, but I'm writing this to urge caution. Not only with women, but with everybody. There are a lot of creeps out there, and a lot of them I hear about in the sub, and I just want to tell everyone it's okay to have a good time, but just be careful out there. I don't know where to post this, but I need advice. It's long, but it's weird as heck, man. A little over a year ago, I was approached via Twitter by a girl claiming she wanted to work together. Her location was not only the same city as mine, but in the same community as well. After a brief convo in DMs, I realized this profile was strange. It was fake. Immediately, I block her and keep it moving. After this, it gets so much weirder. This person continues to make fake profiles, pretending to know me, and eventually went into using fake phone numbers like WhatsApp and texting out to use me. I never gave them my number. It's weird enough that this person is persistent in stalking/harassing me. I'm a freelance entrepreneur. A great portion of my income comes from online, so if it was up to me, I would just unplug, but I can't let this harm my career. But this person has gone onto my friends' numbers/profiles to contact them. I have no idea how. I am very discreet, and I do not interact with these friends online, and somehow this person has been finding them one by one over the past year and persistently harassing them, even making fake Facebook profiles to harass certain people I deal with. Not only my friends in the same area/group, but also friends I have from scattered cities/groups. When I tell you, and this is not an exaggeration, I have blocked over 100 Instagram and Twitter profiles, texting app numbers, and emails from this person. And keep in mind, you need a new email to make an Instagram. I'm a single man, and of course I have lady friends, but none of them are under the impression it is anything different. And I have no bad blood with any ex or former fling. I'm on good terms with everyone as far as I know. But somebody is targeting me and any person they think I date or talk to romantically. It has affected relationships with people I deal with. Either someone I know, I have no idea how close, but they are close enough, secretly hates me and wants to make my life a living nightmare. Or a stranger is obsessed with me and wants to run everyone around me away from me. I have prayed for this man. Like honestly just asking God to reveal who this is to me or make it go away. After a year, the persistence is starting to wear me down. I have no idea who this is pressing me. I reported it to the police, but they haven't done much. I even tried to hire a digital private investigator, but the few I've contacted said they can't help me. Can anyone please give me some direction, man? It's sickening. Something has to give. Thanks. This happened when I was around 10. We lived in a small neighborhood in a not so busy street where everybody knows one another. I live in the second house down the street, and since it's a family house, my mom, my dad, and I live on the second floor. In order to get into our part of the house, you had to enter the garden door and pass by the main entrance to the first floor of the house, go around it, and walk up the stairs. You could not see the entrance to our house from the street. You had to walk in the garden, which had a fence around it, and take 2 turns to find the stairs to our doors. That day, my dad was going to work, so it was around 7 a.m. My mom was watching him leave with his car through the bedroom window, and I was sleeping soundly in the bedroom next to that. After a few minutes, my mom heard the door opening and footsteps, but didn't think much of it. She thought maybe my dad had returned because he forgot something. After a minute of silence, she felt something was odd since she wasn't hearing anything, and she turned around looking through the door of the bedroom and saw a stranger who was about to step in the room that I was sleeping in. My mom, who was scared shitless, grabbed the chair and closed the door of the bedroom slightly, shielding herself since she was only in a t-shirt and underwear, and started yelling at the man and motioning to him with the chair to get the heck out or she would call the police. At that moment, I was wide awake since a lot of the yelling was happening now, but I just shook it off, thinking it was my parents arguing. My mom finally was able to get the man out of our house, and he was repeating that he just wanted to use the phone since his car broke down, but she didn't give him any time to talk or explain. She quickly locked the door, called my dad to come home, and went into my room to tell me what just happened. My dad came home and searched our garden and basement but found nothing. Later we found out that the same man entered another house before ours, 3 houses down the street, and told the same story of having to use the phone once the woman came out of the shower and saw him in her living room. I don't know what his motive was or if he really needed to use the phone, but entering other people's homes without a knock on the door just seems really, really strange. Thankfully, we didn't ever see the man again. I work with disabled adults. Relevant for this story is that several housebound adults run online shops, and before home pickups were a thing, I used to run to the parcels to the post office. I used the same post office because it was on my route home and would frequently take all of the parcels from the same day at about the same time, so it would just take one trip. This meant I often encountered the same staff. One guy behind the counter started to be friendly in a socially awkward way. I would nod and keep it civil, and answer questions like, "How are you?" with "Fine," and "What are you up to today?" with same old, you know. He started saying, "Hi, Penny," when I came in. My name is not Penny, by the way, but one of my clients used their dead name, Penelope, on their return address partly for anonymity, since it's not their name either, and I don't bother to correct them. I also don't bother to learn his name, which starts making me feel a bit guilty. One day he asked how I am after a long day. I think my shifts had started at 4 a.m. or something equally early, and I hadn't had lunch. Instead of my usual "fine," I answer with, "I'm exhausted. I started very early and I haven't managed to have lunch yet." He is overly sympathetic and tells me to go grab a chocolate bar on my way out. I thank him and say I can't because I'm on a diet. I'm not, but accepting the chocolate bar seems like a bad plan. He gets very concerned that I'm eating properly. I am a plump woman. This is not a necessary concern, and I end up taking a chocolate bar to stop the over-the-top concern. I don't think much of it. Seemingly unconnected incidents a month or so before Christmas. One of my vulnerable clients asked me for my help as one of their customers is claiming that no orders have come through. I think they're likely trying to scam the vulnerable person and help them send the proofs of postage to the relevant online companies involved. I don't think much of it. In the same fortnight, it seems like all of my clients with online shops have been hit by scammers, as they're all complaining about customers claiming they're not getting parcels. I didn't think much of it. I sent a large letter to a friend for his birthday, and he told me the post is slow and he hasn't gotten it yet when I wished him a happy birthday online. Didn't think much of it. I take parcels into the post office as usual, and a guy behind the counter, who I don't recognize, asks me if I'm Penny. I say no and he looks at me funny. Then he hands me a card and says that the police really need me to call this number. I smile and take the card to be polite. I have no intention of calling it. Put it on my dashboard and forget about it. The next day, a client cancels on me and I essentially get a long lunch break. I sat in my car eating my sandwiches. I figure I'll kill some time by calling this number. The policewoman asks if I'm Penny. I say no, but explain about my parcel drop-off, maybe causing confusion. She asks if I know anyone called Creepy McCreepyface, and I say no. She gives a description, and I ask if he worked at the post office. Over the course of that conversation, and the one I had later when I went in to talk to her in person, I discovered several things. Creepy had been describing me to his coworkers as his friend Penny, to the extent that some of them thought we might be dating, and one of them worried I might be his ex that he was having trouble getting over. He had taken several parcels that I had dropped off, and hidden them either in his locker or under his desk. I'm not clear on that part. These were easily traced to that post office because he'd done this after I'd paid for them to be delivered and got the receipts and proofs of postage that I had helped a client scan for online companies. At first, the police thought he'd done it to several people because there were multiple return addresses. But nope, turns out it was just me. None of the return addresses were mine, and he didn't know my actual name, so I was advised not to get a restraining order because that would give him my actual name and address. He was, however, restricted from the areas of the addresses he did potentially know from the return labels. He was later charged and prosecuted, not for harassment or anything, but with some kind of postal crime, which resulted in him serving time because this wasn't the first time he had done something like this. He's also banned from working for the post office. I spent that Christmas having freakouts whenever I saw someone with a post office uniform at the door. Recently separated male 38, moved back to India and got on the Bumble dating app. Married for 9 years, I was very rusty as far as dating rituals go. Matched with Priya. Female 38. We chatted for a bit. We'd both lived in similar parts of Europe at different times in our lives. We also seemed to have a lot in common. She would talk to me a lot for about 4 to 5 hours a day, with very intricate and disturbing details of what happened in her marriage that didn't last long, to various abusive boyfriends along the way. Alcoholism, abuse, all kinds of stuff. This was all before we even met. The first date, where we met IRL, went spectacularly well. She came and stayed over with me at a swanky place that I had booked. We stayed there for 2 days, seeming to have natural ease in occupying each other's spaces. Every midnight, the landline of the hotel room would ring. The third day, I head back to my city, which is only 80 miles from hers. She calls me over the phone, wanting to know how far the bus ride to my house was, and casually says, "I love you." I was taken aback and didn't think much of it at the time. This was followed in days to come. "I want to be married to you. And I'm yours forever." I again head back to her city a week later, booked a rather basic place very close to her place. At 1 a.m. she gets a coffee craving. I call room service to order in, thinking that's what she wants. No, let's walk to this 24-hour coffee shop a mile away. So yeah, the neighborhood, although fairly upscale, had loads of feral stray dogs on the streets, and many drunken men would come our way, pretending to be lost and asking for directions. She seemed to be enjoying it a lot. We have coffee at about 1:30 a.m. She then wants to walk back and takes me to the corner of the road and says, "This is where a date didn't go well once and I was assaulted." My legs were shaking at this point. We start walking further. We pass by a broken clay sculpture. She goes, "I have a strong suspicion that this broken sculpture is possessed. I know all about it. My ex-husband's sisters were into witchcraft." We are back at the hotel. It's about 2:30 a.m. We go to sleep. The landline of the hotel room rings incessantly. The next morning, she calls a cab and goes back to her place. I don't think I'm ready for a loving relationship yet. I get that text. I head back to my city. I think about this a lot sometimes. It just refuses to leave me. I have disturbing fever dreams about my incidents that she's narrated to me. I am unable to go on dates anymore. It's been 2 months since this has happened, and I just hope I'll recover soon. When I was about 21 years old, I served tables at a pizza chain restaurant at a new shopping center near where I lived in the evenings and weekends. It was a part-time job for me. I was opening staff at this brand new place and it was very popular at the time. There were several shifts of employees and had a few trainers that came from other locations nearby and stayed to work at the brand new location. One of these cooks' names was John. He was only a couple years older than me. He was a kitchen manager or similar. When I would forget to ring something in or make a mistake and he was working, I'd go back to the kitchen and tell him, and he would often help me or give me extra sauce. Whatever, usually he was doing inventory or paperwork type stuff, like food temp checks, etc. He was really nice to me, never raised his voice or got mad. He was a really soft-spoken, quiet guy. I was engaged at the time and there was no flirting or anything. He was quiet, didn't seem interested in me like that or whatever, just did his job and we would briefly chat when we worked the same schedule. I quit about 4 to 5 months after opening the restaurant and didn't stay in contact with most of the staff, including him. Well, fast forward about a month or two after I quit, and I was reading a news article, and the name in the article was the same name as the guy I'd worked with, and he had starved his stepson to death and kept him in a locked closet. I looked it up and his picture came up, and it was the same guy. I was dumbfounded. He had gotten custody of his ex-girlfriend's child who had no blood relation to him, although there was another younger boy in the home who was John's biological child, I believe a half-brother. He also had a lived-in girlfriend who was no blood relation to either child. The boy was like 30 pounds total when he was found at 7 years old. This poor child was made to use a litter box the last few weeks of his life, kept in a small linen closet. And to think, his stepfather was a cook. If there were money issues, he could have easily taken food from the restaurant. Nobody would have known. Employees got a free meal each shift. He had so many ways to feed this child. He was sentenced to life in prison. I still think of this poor kid who never had a chance, and about the guy who had hurt him, who was unassuming, friendly but quiet or shy, and capable of a job and training others for it. What is wrong with people like him? What made him think, like, you deserve this? It still haunts me to this day. How did this happen? And how did this man have so much hate in his heart? And to convince an adult woman of the same, to not get him help. Morale is, I guess you never really can judge a book by its cover. This happened a handful of years ago. We had a transfer come on the team for another department within the company. He was nearly completely deaf, meaning he could hear really, really loud noises, but nothing else. He did quite well speaking out loud, and he read lips to understand what was being said to him. No big deal, it was just an easy adjustment to make, since you faced him when talking and talked one at a time. He was a decent team member in the beginning, but after a while started making comments to me and the only other female on the team. Things like, "Why haven't you made the coffee yet?" and just other stupid old school jokes that made fun of women. My role gave him instructions on customer requests and needs. He would often not follow the instructions, and I would get calls from customers complaining. Often I had to let him know that he had to go back and fix the work so it matched the original request. Afterwards, he would storm into my office and yell at me as if his inability to read and follow simple instructions were my fault. I got tired of it and said, "Do your job right the first time and there wouldn't be complaints." This, of course, didn't go over well with him. His anger was very unnerving. I got the feeling it wasn't going to stop there. In the following weeks, he would intentionally block doorways that I would be trying to go through. One time, I was in the other female worker's small office and he blocked the entire doorway. He stood there and smiled this super creepy smile as if he were saying, "What are you going to do about it?" I refused to touch him to try and push past him. The other lady kept looking at me like she was beyond uncomfortable too. It was like we read each other's minds, and we kept having our own conversation about something work-related and ignored him. After several minutes, he left. Another time, I had to go to the far back of the warehouse to organize some stuff in the room. I remember going in and thinking, okay, there are 2 cameras and they can see this main hallway, but not between the shelving units. I had the uneasy feeling that he would come back there. Sure enough, a few minutes later, he came barging in the room and came right at me. I had already been on high alert, so I quickly exited the other door in the room and booked it back to where the rest of the team was. I pulled up the security cameras to see if he had a reason to be in there. Sure enough, he paced in the room for a few minutes after I bolted and then he left. He clearly had no reason to be in there that exact moment I was. I shared this with a male coworker friend and he said he would go back with me to any of the spaces away from the main team areas. I had to get my work done, but I didn't trust I could do it without this angry guy finding me. Anytime we would make comments about his anger or demeaning jokes, the managers would say, "Oh, maybe he didn't understand because he talks too fast," or "I bet it was just a misunderstanding," as if having a disability means you can't also be a disgusting person. Not too long after that, I heard from a teammate that this angry guy had grabbed the other female's upper thigh, literally right below a private area, squeezed and said, "Does this make you uncomfortable?" Then laughed. A few teammates witnessed it but didn't know what to do as the other female worker froze up. I immediately went to HR and told them everything he had been doing to intimidate, belittle, trap, and of course, the sexual harassment. He was fired the next day. When they escorted him out, he yelled, "This is retaliation." HR asked me what I would make of that comment, and all I could think was that it had to do with me standing my ground with him. I was so scared to see him show up unexpectedly. I told my family what he looked like, his tattoos, the car he drove, anything that would identify him since they never met him. I blocked him from every social media platform too. After he was let go, other females came forward and shared things he said or did to them too. They had told managers, but they dismissed it because the guy is deaf and they didn't want to deal with any lawsuits. As much as I hate what he did to my coworker, I'm grateful it gave that final boost to get him fired. This might not be as scary as the other stories on here, but it gives me the jeebies. My uncle was the main male figure in my life growing up, as I had a single mom. He was always a bit out there, but to me, I thought of him just as my crazy uncle and I trusted him. However, this changed pretty quickly after this story. My uncle owned a boat and he used to take me and my siblings out around where we live in Australia. 14-year-old me, who had been awkwardly talking to my crush before going back to the boat. My uncle started pestering me straight away, asking me who he was and if he was my boyfriend or not. I thought it was weird and told him so. I was being sassy, but he took it in a way I didn't expect and seemed genuinely annoyed. We got into an argument and I ended up leaning over the side of the boat sulking. He told me several times to stop it. Suddenly, he pushed me and held my head underwater. I thought it was a bad joke at first, but he held me under for way too long. I started panicking and my vision was blurring. He then let me go and started laughing at me. I was obviously terrified and upset and immediately told my mom, but my uncle said that I was lying and just wanted attention. My mom didn't believe me. I never trusted him again after this, and I still have a bad fear of water. I'd always blame myself for what happened on the boat because I was talking back to him. My crush ended up becoming my boyfriend, and he never liked my uncle either and told me so. My uncle was always picking fights with him. I have twin sisters who are around 2 years younger than me. Because I'm the big sister, I used to shelter them from him the best that I could. But they were old enough to know what was up. It wasn't a normal relationship between me and my uncle, and he used to call me dumb to my face, but tell others that I was naive and immature for my age. He also used to play fight with us a lot. On more than one occasion, he has pulled us on his lap and tickled us and wouldn't let go until we literally had to fight him to get off. My sisters and I try to not speak to him, obviously, but he still tries to contact us. He's not related to us by blood, but it doesn't make it any better. My aunt, mom's sister, also told me that he and his brother were arrested in the late 80s or early 90s for threatening to shoot their brother's ex-girlfriend. I don't know the full story behind that one. I'm 19 now and I'm so angry that I've never reported him or told anyone apart from friends. I still panic when water is over my head.